it's time to end the debate. Formula 1, Formula E, what's the difference? Let's get into it. In this video, I'm going to be talking about 10 differences between Formula 1 and Formula E. Just to let you know exactly what both of these different sports are, we'll start things off with Formula 1. Formula 1 is the highest class of international racing for open-wheel, single-seater Formula racing cars sanctioned by the FIA, stands for the Federation Internationale del Automobile. You ain't never gonna get me saying that right. The FIA Formula 1 World Championship has been one of the premier forms of racing around the world since its inaugural season in 1950. Whereas Formula E is officially the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. Formula E is also a single-seater motorsport championship for electric cars. That's right, the E is for electric, for all of you Prius lovers out there. This series was conceived in 2011 by that man in Paris, Jean Todt, the FIA president. We can't forget Spanish businessman Alejandro Agag, who is the current chairman of Formula E Holdings. The inaugural championship race was held in Beijing in China in September 2014. But since 2020, the series has got FIA status. Now, let's get into the differences. Formula 1 cars are mid-engine hybrid, which are powered by a 1.6 litre V6 turbocharged engine and battery power. Whereas the Formula E cars, fully electric people, using batteries and electric motors for power. Now, a Formula 1 car can go from 0 to 60 in around 2.6 seconds, whereas with the Formula E engine, 0 to 60 is slightly 2.8 seconds, making the Formula 1 side faster. Formula 1 cars have a top speed of around 230 miles per hour, 370 kilometers per hour for all of you folks out there. As the Formula E top speed is 200 miles an hour, or 320 kilometers per hour. Formula 1 races take place in a mixture of race circuits as well as street tracks, whereas Formula E circuits are purely street tracks in urban areas. Formula 1 races tend to be a little bit longer than Formula E races. Let's break this down. A typical Formula 1 race is about 90 minutes, give or take safety cars, red flags, you know what I mean. But Formula E races are a lot shorter due to the car's battery life. Races typically last from about 45 minutes to an hour. To paint a further picture on this, at the Monaco Grand Prix, which both sets of Formula race in, Formula 1 does 78 laps around the streets of Monaco. By contrast, Formula E does only 29 laps around the same circuit. Number 5, pit stops. Formula 1 cars will require at least one pit stop per race. This is of course for tyre compound changes and as well as some potential repairs. Formula E, however, doesn't have a mandatory pit stop. A driver can go from start to finish on one set of tyres on the same battery. Comment down below if there was no pit stops in Formula 1 or in Formula E, does it make it boring? Initially, I think so. Otherwise, what are we doing here? Number 6, DRS versus attack mode. DRS is used in Formula 1. It's a process where at the press of a button, the driver can open the rear wing of his car. This decreases the wing's wind resistance, giving the car a temporary speed boost, essential for overtaking. It's only an aerodynamic twitch, not the result of surge of power in the engine. However, in Formula E, attack mode is the name. This is also a button drivers will press to give themselves more power in the engine. This is a way to give them extra speed, especially when overtaking. A little bit like a Mario Kart, you go over the line and zoom, you get a little boost. On every Formula E circuit, there's some specially designed attack mode zones, and this is where you're allowed to temporarily boost their power by 50 kilowatts at the press of a button. Let's talk about qualifying, people. In Formula 1, you've got 3 Q sessions, Q1, Q2, Q3, 5 get eliminated in each round, and then you get the top 10 in the final Q3 session. Q1, 5 drivers go, Q2, another 5 drivers go, and then Q3, you've got the top 10, and the best go flat out to see who is in pole position. Qualifying in Formula E, however, is quite unique. The field essentially is split into two different groups depending on where they are in the championship. Each group will run for 12 minutes with the fastest 4 from each group, 8 drivers in total, going into the knockout competition. And then the knockout begins. Each driver will be setting up times one after the other, head-to-head battle until there is just one remaining on top, who is declared the pole sitter. Kind of a cool concept, I must admit. Formula 1, take note. Let's talk about the race points. Now, in a Formula 1 race, every driver from 1st place up to 10th place is acquired points. 25 for P1, 18 for P2, 15 for P3, 12 for P4, 10 for P5, 8, 6, 4, 2, 1, the list goes on. And if you've got the fastest lap in the race and you finish in the top 10, you get an extra point. If you finish outside the top 10, it's wasted. There is no points for you. Now the same goes for Formula E, however, there's an additional 3 points to the person who's on pole from the day before. Phenomenal scenes, Jeff. 3 extra points. I think we should include this in Formula 1. Let's talk about sprint weekends. Formula 1 has about 6 sprint weekends in a season. Sprint meaning that it's a separate kind of championship that goes on, but it actually adds on points to the actual championship itself. It's quite weird. It's just for more entertainment, for more racing. We have a sprint shootout, which is basically like a qualifying session. Then we have a sprint race itself, which is just like is it a third or something like that of the actual race that we would normally have. Points are allocated, they're very minimal points. Doesn't seem to appeal to the drivers, but hey, more entertainment for us Formula 1 fans. Formula E don't deal with this nonsense, they ain't got no sprint weekends whatsoever. However, some venues will host double header sessions, meaning 2 full championship rounds, effectively a 2-race weekend. A bit like the sprint race. This will take place across the 2 days of the weekend, albeit with a single 45-minute practice session, taking place on the second day instead of a repeat of the 2. Interesting. When it comes to the countries both these formulas race in, ironically for a world championship, the only continent Formula 1 does not race in is Africa. Meanwhile, Formula E does. But yes, both sets of formulas race in Europe, in Asia, and in the Americas. South America, Central America, you get my gist. Here's a list of the countries that Formula E race in that Formula 1 don't. Indonesia, India, South Africa, Switzerland, Morocco, Uruguay, and Chile. Good variety, good for you Formula E, well done. Thanks for coming this far, by the way. Stick around, there's a bonus one. There is a bonus one, so keep it locked. And comment down below which one you find better, Formula 1 or Formula E. Formula 1 has an astronomical 24 races a season. Seem to sandwich that in a calendar year. Whereas Formula E, 16 races we're gonna get in a calendar season. And it starts in January and ends in July. Formula 1 will typically start in March and end in November. Smash a like for making it this far in the video. Yes, of course I was going to mention the one obvious thing, the difference between Formula 1 and Formula E. If you thought I was going to leave it out, you must be joking. But the noise. Oh my goodness, Formula 1's noise, even though it's been decreased over the years, is still lovely, luscious, lovely sound that we get in Formula 1 on a racetrack. When I think about racing, noise is one of the things you think about when it comes to racing. Formula E, however, now, they call it noise, but it's like a phantom. Okay, and I'm sure it gets all the abuse, you know, Prius and all that kind of thing. But literally, if one was driving near you, I don't know if you would be aware and maybe you might get run over. But the noise is the biggest difference between these two, okay? Yes, we get the engine differences as well, but the noise is a must in Formula 1. It's a must in racing. And I know Formula E have tried. They tried to do something, maneuver something where you can get a bit of sound, a bit of noise. And I'm sure if you go to a circuit and you're there, you're hearing the noise full volume. But it's a no from me, Jeff, when it comes to Formula E, and for that reason mainly as well, Formula 1 is simply better. It's faster, great tracks, and the noise. Comment down below which one you think is better, Formula 1 or Formula E, and give your reasons why. Let's have a debate, let's have a discussion. Formula 1 has got crazy stories throughout the entire season. Click this video right here to see the latest. And until next time, lights out.